Welcome back, you guys. In today's video, we are going to talk about something like 19 tornadoes that Missouri just experienced, and I'm going to give you an update on the damage and the deaths. Moving to southern Missouri is the best thing I've ever done for my family. Before we start, I want to first thank everyone who's reached out to us wanting to know if we're okay. We are. Absolutely no damage here. And I also want to say that my heart and condolences go out to everyone who has experienced massive damage and even some deaths. The way that the tornadoes worked, and like I was saying, I think that they're counting 19 tornadoes in Missouri, that the way that the damage played out really does affirm and speak to what I talk about on this channel and why my family chose a specific spot in the Ozarks is that for the most part, we are buffered from the brunt of these massive storm events. So for us here, we're in Douglas County, and we weren't sure what was going on in the rest of the world. We never lost electricity, so we were able to touch in with social media and news and stuff, and we were just blown away because here we didn't get almost no rain, no hail, where a lot of people had like the golf ball size hail. We didn't have any of that. All we had was an amazing lightning and thunder show. Like, it was definitely like one of the best ones we'd ever seen. And then earlier that day, we had an incident where the winds picked up so much, we had a trampoline flip over close to the house, and I actually had to go out with my eldest daughter. And it was kind of stressful because the baby was crying inside, but what are you going to do? And we had to literally hold the trampoline down until my husband could get home. And at one point, we lost the trampoline. It went up in the air and was twirling and was coming at me in the house. And I just kind of grabbed it and twirled it away from the house. It kind of grazed the house and the gutter. Sorry. And kind of sprayed my arm a little bit with that. But that was stressful, but good Lord, that was nothing compared to what other people were experiencing throughout the state. And yes, we have moved that trampoline into the shop, and I said it is not coming outside unless we cement it into the ground with hurricane straps. And we had a friend actually make a joke that flying trampolines are the state bird of Missouri, and I laughed pretty hard because kind of true. But yeah, we had so little going on when it was really hot. So from 7 and on into the night, that was when it was just going off, and we had almost nothing happening other than lightning. And so we really didn't realize how bad it was. And in fact, until I started digging and digging and digging, I didn't really realize how bad it was for some counties. So, for the most part, you guys know from this channel that I pretty much recommend, if you go west, I recommend from Dade all the way down to Barry. And then so Barry is in the southwest. From Barry, all the way over to Ozark. We do Oregon. We go up to Carter. We do some in Locklead and, more of the northern counties. We definitely do a lot in Polk and Dallas. So we really are all over in that. If you look at the map, it's the very most southern counties exactly in the center. And those are the counties that not only do we work the heaviest in, but they're the ones that I highly recommend people to move to because of the way that storms move through here, the prosperous economies around here, the amazing fertile soils, the great aquifers. I mean, right? I could go on and on. There's a lot of reasons. COVID didn't happen here in our county, didn't happen. There's a lot of reasons that I recommend the counties that I do. So for the counties that I recommend, there was actually very little damage. What we had a lot of was hail damage. In terms of size, I would say hail damage, and you found the most of that in Webster County, although it was all over. It's very patchy too. The way that weather works here is your neighbor down the road might not get hail and you do. It really is that much of sub climates here. So yeah, lots of hail damage in Marshfield. And in fact, a fella by the name of Adam, who's new to our team, I might do a video with him soon. Great guy. He was actually started as a client, but turned into a good friend, and now business associate. And he's in Marshfield, and they had massive hail damage. 2 windows broke out. Actually, I'm gonna add some pictures so you guys can see what he was talking about. But massive hail damage, and it's tough. He's gonna file with his insurance, but everything is a metal building, and like everything has a dent in it. So that is one thing that we have noticed, is that Webster County tends to get more of the hail than we do. We here in Douglas, and we're very much in the hills, we have had like 2 hail events, and the one that had, nice big size hail, it was like 1 piece of hail, and then 15 feet over there'd be another piece of hail. So it wasn't like, like full torrential of that size, because if that would have happened, we would have had so much damage. Our new greenhouse would have been completely destroyed. So we just haven't had that happen here yet. Now, can it happen? Of course it can. But what we've noticed, and also talking to our neighbors, who some of them have been here for 5 generations in this area, that they have noticed that we just don't get the storms here as bad. And like I've said, parts of Seymour are bottomland, very, very flat. You can't not see that when you drive through Highway 60. And we have noticed that the tornadoes come through a bit more, but they're still spotty, and they still don't seem as massive as they are in other regions. Now, this storm, who got hit the hardest in Seymour, so Webster County, was the Amish along Highway C. And I don't know if it was like entire homes gone, but definitely lots of damage, no deaths. And I don't know to the extent of it. I haven't been able to make it out there yet, and the Amish are hard to get a hold of. They don't make videos on YouTube either, but I do want to head out there and see just how bad the damage was for them. But they've probably already rebuilt. What's amazing about the Amish who are good, not the ones who are drunk at 8 o'clock in the morning, but the ones who are on a true God path, is not only do they rebuild like that, no government assistance, like you're never going to hear them ask for help really. They do that quickly as a group. But then when we have, they call us the English, when we have friends who have full total losses with fire, storms, whatever, the Amish are there like that to help them rebuild for free. Now, that's not all the time. Sometimes people are hiring them, but we've seen it enough times that it's pretty beautiful. Now, like I've said on other videos, there's all and everything in the Amish community. I no longer have a generalization, because like I said, there's those that are drunk in the morning and I don't even feel safe around them. There's been some that have super creeped me out. So there's all and everything in the Amish community. But saying the damage that they had in this storm, I'm not kidding you. I wouldn't be surprised if I drove there and they're already almost fully rebuilt, because that's just how they roll. I also drove around Springfield a lot at the day after, and I saw 1 fence down. My Google kept saying, warning, warning, there's gonna be tornado damage, and I literally didn't see anything. And I'm looking, I didn't see roofs. I saw 1 part of a fence that was just leaned over. It wasn't torn apart, it was just leaned over. And that's pretty customary. What we see when we've seen, we've gone through quite a few tornadoes here now, is it's 1 sign over there is mangled, and then it's right by all these houses, they look fine. And then another guy over here, his roof is opened like a tin can, the roof is opened, but everything else is okay. It's just this 1 corner. We had 1 neighbor who, on their barn, that roof was totally destroyed. And the community had it rebuilt in a week, because also not just the Amish, but the churches around here, everyone rallies together. So for the most part for us, that was how the damage was this round of tornadoes. So the way that tornadoes usually work is they move from the southwest, right? And they move up and over to the northeast. And if you know that kind of pattern of tornadoes, then the path that they usually take makes a lot of sense. And if you look at a map of Missouri, I'm going to show you a map right here. I want you to be able to see that who got the most damage does make sense, because it's as the tornado is moving out in that northeasterly movement. And what the tornado is going to be wanting is it's going to be wanting to kind of gain traction in that flatland where there's flat and there's bottom. They're going to gain traction as they're moving through that northeastern movement. So it makes sense that the eastern counties are eastern and northeastern are the ones that got the most damage. But in our region, we did have 3 deaths, and that was in Ozark County. And most of what I have looked into, I haven't looked into every single one, but it seems like most of them are people who were living in trailers or just did not have a good place to flee. There's one woman who, I don't know why she did it. She went outside. She made it through her home. She was up, I believe, no, she was over east past Poplar Bluff, I believe. But she made it through the storm. And then she went outside and there was a downed power line and she got electrocuted in her own backyard, like after the storm had passed. But otherwise, most of the stories are from like trailers and not having adequate shelter. There was 1 death in Butler County, 6 deaths in Wayne County, 1 death in Jefferson County, and another death in St. Louis County. So the most deaths happened in Wayne County, which is, it's more actually eastern than we work. It also is a little bit more eastern than we just encourage people to go if you're looking for like some sort of economy, like if you still need money, you know what I mean? It's harder over there. It's definitely a more of a slow-paced real estate market and more of a depressed economy. You can just see it when you go out there. A lot more trailer parks and just people living in like kind of temporary housing. But if you think about it, if those tornadoes are moving from the southwest to the northeast, it seems to me that when they reach kind of more of that northeastern corner, they tend to have picked up speed and do more damage. So I'm sure that there was multiple tornadoes almost in every area, right? 19 across the whole state. But so it kind of started to pick up in West Plains. There's spotty damage in West Plains. And then it really started to pick up in Poplar Bluff. There was a lot more damage in Poplar Bluff. Wayne County is even more east, and that was where there was the most damage. Now, people are saying, for the most part, the tornadoes were E1. There was some E2, but over there in Wayne County, they're saying potentially E3. Another place that got hit really hard was Rolla. And we have a firefighter friend up there, and he said there was about 100 homes that were completely leveled. And what was crazy is the next several days, they were just madly scrambling, trying to remove debris with heavy equipment to get to people stuck in their basement. So luckily, no deaths. People were safe down in their basement, but stuck. And I have to admit, I never really thought about that before. It's just something I didn't think about because tornadoes are fairly new to me, is that basements have that issue. So if you're in a metro, no big deal. They're going to be looking for you. If you have a dilapidated, destroyed home, they are going to be looking for you. But if you're not in a metro and you're tucked in and don't have close neighbors and you're new to the area, maybe no one is going to be looking for you. And there was, last thing I want to mention, there was some spotty damage in Oregon County. I found this fella's YouTube page. I was actually curious about these people, maybe try to connect with them in the future. And their neighbor's home got hit pretty hard, but they were fine and all the surrounding areas were fine. So I don't want to be misleading. I want everyone to understand that we are in a tornado-rich area. But from what I have found, damage is very spotty. We don't have widespread devastation like other areas do. So that brings me to a new feeling that has been developing, which is that I personally now do want a storm shelter, because you never know. Like, even though we have been super safe here, man, you can't 100% say anything definitive about weather ever anywhere, right? And so this storm and what happened in Rolla made me want a storm shelter that is away from the home, away from structures, away from power lines, because I was even thinking of a place. I was like, oh, that would be a good spot on the land. And then I was like, no, a power line could totally fall like pretty close to where I was thinking, and that would be dangerous. So I do believe it makes sense to have a place, and if it was going to be very strategic, it would be close enough to your home that you could run out and get to it. You wouldn't want it too far away. You wouldn't want it by any structures where there could be enough debris that your access out is blocked. And you wouldn't want it too close to power lines. You wouldn't want it too close to big trees of any size that you couldn't move yourself that could fall on it. So these were all the things I was thinking after these tornadoes. So I have looked into it, and the one we want is like about $4,000. You can get them for cheaper, for sure. I would say like the range people spend is kind of big, like $2,000 to $10,000, depending on how big you want it to be. I do want it to be big enough for our family and some gear and stuff like that. And so it's on the list. I don't feel like we are in a rush to get one, because like I said, the storm literally did not even come here, which was pretty wild. But we have had some big storms here, and there was one night that the storm was big enough that I thought about going into our most interior room, which would be my daughter's closet. But we didn't. It was, we were just thinking about it. But so I just think that what I would say is better safe than sorry. And although in the past I really felt like it was going to be overkill to do a storm shelter here, I now am kind of just feeling like, why not just err on the side of caution? So I have gotten into a friendly argument with one of my viewers. I'm hoping subscriber as well. And I really appreciate all of his feedback, although we do disagree. And he was saying, he's just this avid, kind of storm weather buff, and that science says that topography doesn't affect or slow down or even sometimes halt tornadoes. And I wouldn't say halt, but makes them like skip, and they kind of stop their spiral. I've watched it. They like can't go up a mountain. The spiral starts to like pull back, and then it's kind of moving across. It hits like some flatland again, the spiral and the what do they call that? You guys know what I'm talking about though. The funnel gains again, right? Restructures again. And I watch it form, skip, dissipate, form, skip, dissipate. And we've just seen it now. So, and that's what people around here say that they've seen for like many, many generations. So I think there's something to it. But his point was, he's down in Arkansas, and I forget your handle, but hey, I'm sure you're watching, and I just want to speak to this because I do believe that topography matters. But he has seen down in Arkansas where generally there's a lot, actually more steep hills, less flat farmland, right? He has seen a tornado go downhill, take out like trees and I think homes downhill, and then kind of come to a plateau, take out more damage. And I do believe that that can happen. But what I'm saying is they have a very hard time going uphill. And every time I've watched them, it's like they lose their funnel. It's like it just dissipates. And then they have to gain that energy back up. And I truly believe, not that there won't be tornadoes, right? We just had like tons. Not that there won't be them, but that in these areas, if you are strategic, and not in extended bottomland, because the truth is extended bottomland is more vulnerable to tornadoes and to flooding. Even if you're surrounded by mountains, I believe that that is truth. But that if you are strategically tucked in the hills like we are, I don't know, the storms just don't come here. They just tend to pass us by, and when I've watched storms in the distance, we've especially seen this in Texas County, because they tend to pass through Texas County, right? They're going up through Kabul, up through Licking and Houston and all of that, and then they're gaining traction, and then they tend to hit the Rolla area and all of those suburbs and those surrounding areas more. and then they tend to continue to gain energy moving up through fairly flat land up into St. Louis. That tends to be something that we see frequently. So it's not that you won't see tornadoes here. It's not that they can't go downhill or even hit, they could hit the side of a mountain, kind of go up it, do some damage. All those things are possible. But what I'm saying is that topography is not advantageous for the tornado. It does slow it down. And slowing down that tornado is advantageous for us. And as I've mentioned in past videos, it's one reason that I personally wouldn't feel comfortable living in Joplin, because it's very, very flat there. It's right at the gateway to what they call, Tornado Alley. And it was completely decimated in about 2011. And I'm talking like gone off the face of the map. Now they have rebuilt. I've talked to locals who are still traumatized that went through that tornado. It was, I think, E5. It was crazy. So I'm not a fearful person, but I do always like to strategically look at flooding, fires, tornadoes. I mean, I like to look at natural disasters and then kind of think proactively about, how am I ready for them? How is this property geared towards protecting against them? And I think it's something that we should all do in this brave new world, especially. Seriously, people, whether you believe that we have intensified weather events from climate change that's from fossil fuel use, or if you believe that we have that from man-made geoengineering, it doesn't matter what your belief system is. The fact is that it is here. And so all of us should be embracing preparedness and forward thinking. So I don't think that you have to be a prepper to do that. I think that you should just, if you're a human living on Earth, you should be doing that. All right, you guys, I want to thank you for sticking around watching this video. I want to thank everyone that's reached out to me asking if we're okay. That's so amazing. I feel like in this last year, I've formed not just a relationship with those of you that want to be clients, but I'm actually forming a little community and learned so much, made so many friends, and it's been amazing. It really has been more than I was even planning or expecting. So I just want to thank all of you for all the interaction. If you got something from this video, please like and subscribe. Seriously, it does help. And someday I want to monetize just so that to see how quickly they demonetize my channel. That's my goal. I want to see how quickly that will happen. I appreciate all the likes and subscriptions. And as always, you guys, all my information is in the description. If you need to reach out for me, give me a call, text, email. We can set up a Zoom and we can talk about moving to Southern Missouri, which for us has been literally the best thing that we've ever done, and we haven't regretted it for a single day. Until next time, you guys, bye.